All right, good morning. It is time for our newest podcast. It's called How's the Market? And today I'm joined with Maria from A&N Mortgage. Last week, if you joined us, I had Taryn. So I think we're going to see sometimes the both of them, sometimes
Yeah.
they're going to alternate, but today is our treat. We get Maria.
Yes.
And I am so excited that we actually had some viewers really excited about our program after last week's or
Great.
last month's program. So
Hmm.
thanks to Emily. It's a shout out to Emily. Emily has asked that we talk about how's the market in Crystal Lake. All
Yes.
right. So as we suggested last month, I'm going to go through some of the most important data points so
Hmm.
that we can really describe a market. And then I'm going to throw the baton to Maria, and she's going to talk about what's going on with rates and what's
Yeah.
going on with maybe some grant programs or some financial programs or things
Okay.
that we need to share with our clients so that they
Hmm.
know that this is the time to buy or sell. All
Yeah.
right. Without much further ado, I'm going to share with you some tools that might help you to answer the question of how's the market. So I'm opening up RPR, one of the least used tools, but should be
Yeah.
the primary tool that we're
Mhm.
using. RPR is free to you with your MLS access, so take advantage of it. Now, I'm going to jump right in and tell you I'm going to go to, maybe I want to do residential market trends. We could do a
Mhm.
whole lot of good stuff, but I'm going to go into our market trends and throw in Crystal Lake. Here you go, Emily. Let's see what's going on in your neighborhood. So, Crystal Lake, Illinois. You can even do this for subdivisions or areas and so on. So let's talk about the first trend. We talked about month supply last month.
Mhm.
Remember, 1 to 4 month supply is typically called a seller's market, where we
Mhm.
have actually more inventory that actually less inventory than we have
Mhm.
buyers.
Mhm.
And people often think right now there's no buyers out there.
Mhm.
Typically, at this time of year, we're in a balanced market, but Crystal Lake is definitely a seller's market, a great time for a seller to go on the market and
Mhm.
potentially sell fast. So, in approximately 1.3 months, if no more listings came on the market, all of the listings would sell. And we know that
Mhm.
there's going to continue to be listings coming on. But look at this other great fact about Crystal Lake. It's selling at about 99.8% of list price if it's coming on the market priced right and, of course, dressed up the way it should be.
Right.
12 days on the market. That is
Wow.
typically unheard of at this time of year.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not typical.
There's so
And
much demand. It's
that
wild.
is
Yeah.
incredible. That
Hmm.
is absolutely incredible. And Crystal Lake is selling at a median price of 379,000
So
for
great.
50, which is actually down from month over month. So the value is going down slightly, but boy, it looks like it's still selling super fast. So I'm going to think that there is very little demand and very little inventory right now in Crystal Lake.
Mhm.
So if somebody
Mhm.
wants to sell, now's the time. Let's take a couple looks at a few other data points. We can hover over it and we can see that Crystal Lake in 2024 was 375. Now it's 379. So I would say it's not a dramatic increase in that neighborhood. Prices are steady, but most people have been living there for probably a couple years. They
Mhm.
might have some equity sitting in this property.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right, we can see that it's estimated. Let's see what we got here. We've got County staying very similar at 375. Crystal Lake is at 395 though. So
Mhm.
Crystal Lake is outpacing the market for McHenry County. That makes this a highly desirable neighborhood. So certainly we can look at other areas of McHenry County if your client can't afford Crystal Lake and see what other areas are comparable but lower
Mhm.
prices. We can also come down here and see that, yep, there's only 62 properties on the market in Crystal Lake. That's down 13.9% month
Mhm.
over month. So if
Yeah.
you're having troubles finding a property in Crystal Lake, this is why maybe you want to start looking at the private network. Perhaps there are some private listings that you want to give access to buyers. But hey,
Mhm.
seller, again, low competition, great opportunity to sell.
Yeah.
All right. We've got some great numbers here. Median area square footage is 1840. So we're having some smaller houses coming on the market now than typical because we're down just a little in square footage. And again, 27 days on the market to close. And before we had the stats of only 12 days on the market till it goes contingent. So 12 days to go contingent, quickly closing at 60, nope, that wasn't the number, 27 days. That's a
Mhm.
fast closing, Maria.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can do faster, Risa.
Wow. Wow. Okay,
There's still time to close this year. That's what
I'm
I've
gonna
been
let you
telling
talk
everybody.
about it. So we've got
Yeah.
80 properties currently in the market in this neighborhood. 40 are under contract. 56 closed in the past month. This is a
Wow.
hot market.
Yeah.
All right, Crystal Lake, there's a lot of good stuff going on.
Mhm.
And if you're selling in the Crystal Lake market or any market, wouldn't these be great graphs to share with your client to explain to them really what they can anticipate if they're priced right and they're dressed up appropriately? I always say they have to be the beauty queen, but
Yes.
maybe in this market you don't need to because it's still
Right.
that seller's market.
Mhm.
And hey, if you're working with a buyer in Crystal Lake, remember that you're probably going to be offering list price. You probably are going into multiple offers, so you need to set
Yeah.
that offer to be highly desirable. And maybe you want to be using that price, the escalation clause. So that
Mhm.
says that if somebody else makes another offer higher than yours, that you're willing to go to X dollars. Of
Mhm.
course, I'll let Maria talk about what would happen in an appraisal if maybe the appraisal doesn't come out at the value that you've offered it at.
Mhm.
But I know many appraisers do look at when it's in multiple offers
Right.
and keep that into consideration.
Right. We haven't had any issues with appraisals, Risa. It is quite unusual, really, in this market. There's so much demand. It's just no problems there.
All right, I'm going to give you one last tool before I walk out of this
Mhm.
Crystal Lake scenario. You've got a few things that you can be using. You can create a report right in RPR to go ahead and share with your clients market activity or neighborhood template.
Mhm.
I'm going to show you that market activity just so you can see it. But why aren't we sending this out to all of our hot prospects or maybe your neighborhood in Crystal Lake to let them know how the market's performing? RPR brands it for you. It gives you a nice bit of visuals that you can send out, and it's always branded to you. And it can't hurt to put some of this on social media and explain to people what this data means. All
Mhm.
right. So use your tools. You've got them accessible to you and
Mhm.
let people know that it's a great time to sell in Crystal Lake and it's still a great time to get a great value property. All
Yeah.
right. I'm going to toss the baton over to Maria to hear now affordability and financing.
Yes. Okay. So thank you so much, Risa. Yeah, I mean, these tools are so good. You want to establish yourself as the expert, as we all know, because that just really, when you put those things online, that draws people to you, right? And then also, like, we can co-brand so many of our flyers. We have down payment assistance up to $10,000. There are grant programs that may come out next year. For now, those are all, the one that we have is a $10,000 in down payment assistance from the Illinois Housing Development Authority. And there are some limits to that. It has to be a primary residence, up to 2 units. You have to have a certain credit score, not that high. You can it's like 620 credit. It's not too bad. It's really an incredible program, and which has income limits as well. But we do have that is on a flyer. We can co-brand that for you. Other thing is, I tell people to really focus on the monthly payment. Because how much are you paying in rent? You might be able to get a mortgage for the same amount. And if you're concerned about the down payment, there's a minimum down payment of 3%. So typically you can scrape that together. And when you're thinking about this time of year, you're going to be filing your tax returns probably in January or February. You're going to probably get a nice, amount of money back from your taxes. And you could save that and use that for a down payment. Okay, so interest rates is always the hot topic here. The Fed is meeting today and tomorrow. Or it's yes, today and tomorrow, they're meeting this week. So they are expected to lower the federal interest rate by 0.25%, Risa, but that does not necessarily affect our rates. Now, because they're expected to lower the rates, last week our rates were going down a little, but now this week there's always uncertainty when they meet, and then our rates typically go up a little bit after the meeting. We are between 6 and 7%. There's a lot of factors in there. What's the property type? What is your credit score? Um, so many different things go into that, into the rate. Are you paying points? Are you not paying points? Most of my clients choose not to pay points. I always say like 99.5% of clients do not pay points. Because the other thing is we do expect in the next few years that rates will be coming down, and it can take 5 to 7 years to recoup the cost of those points. So it doesn't really get you as much as you would think. On average, it might save you, if you get an eighth off, you pay a whole percentage point, which is like a percentage of the purchase price, and it only saves you like $25 to $30 a month in many cases. And so it can take you years and years to recoup that cost. You're probably going to refinance before then. Like the average homeowner really only has their mortgage for, maybe like 7 years. A little longer since the pandemic, since people are holding on to these lower interest rates. But people are starting to get moving. I will say this is my busiest December since the pandemic, really. So people are getting ahead of that spring market, Risa. It's really, I don't think, we are still, I'm seeing multiple offer situations. And, you have to be with the right lender in order to win those offers, for sure. We have in-house underwriting. We offer so many different things. And just strategies to help them to win that. Like, we've had deals together where I have you CC me on the offer, and then I respond immediately, letting them know that my client is already pre-underwritten and we could close so quickly. We can close a single family home in about 10 business days, and then a condo in about 15 business days. Sometimes it can be a little bit less if the condo association is well run and there's no hiccups there. But we're never quite sure until we see those documents. But there's still time to close this year. And then let's see the interest rates. So again, we're between 6 and 7, but I will often speak to clients for like a year or two before they're ready to buy, just because it does take some planning. It's great when they're ready right away. But I don't want people to be intimidated by the process. And as we all know, we're always building our relationship with our clients. So you may start talking to them when there could be a year out, they could be 2 years out. A lot of them are closer than they think. They build this up like it's Mount Everest. And then when we start looking at their credit, income, and assets, they're like, oh, well, this isn't as bad as I'm actually in better shape than I thought. So doing that analysis, holding their hand, going the extra mile to really look at those numbers, I find that is really, really makes all the difference to turn renters into buyers. And I always stress to the renters, you pay 100% interest on rent. You're really the net worth of a renter, or of a homeowner, is about 50 times the net worth of a renter. So you just will not save. I tell people to look at it as a retirement account. Your home is a savings account, and it's another, way to get you to retirement faster. You will never save that much money. You won't force yourself. We're not disciplined enough to save that kind of money when we're renting. When you're buying, you're constantly putting that mortgage payment away, you're paying that principal and interest, and your home is appreciating in value every single year. So all of a sudden you've got $50,000 in equity. You have this, we were kind of talking about that, that people have so much equity right now. So it is a good time. It's a great time to sell. Who knows? Are you going to buy that investment property in Florida? Are you going to, what are you going to do with all that equity that you have? Buying is such a great opportunity. And what else do you want me to touch on today, Risa?
Well, I want to tell you, Maria, so you brought up two things I want to reiterate. The first
Yeah.
thing is, I think real estate agents need to be singing from the rafters that buyers don't need to have 20%. They can close
No.
with as little as
Yeah.
3%, and that
Yeah.
there's down payment assistance from IDA. Okay.
Yes.
And
Right.
I want to encourage all of our agents to reach out to you to really get
Yes.
those sound bites
Yeah.
so that they
Mhm.
feel like they can queue it up and pass a client to you so you can explain that, because we don't need to
Yes.
know too much. We just need the sound bites.
Right. And the other thing is, like, we have a buyer booklet that can also be co-branded for your agents. It walks them through everything, and it makes your job easier. So you can say, before we have our first meeting, I want you to read this cover to cover, because it does touch on every single thing. And then at least they will start to have some of that information in their head, and it's less work for you. Anything we can do to make our job a little bit easier, right, Risa?
Right. Well, that
Yeah.
brings up the second thing that you really have
Mhm.
driven home today. And
Mhm.
that is that if our clients are working with another lender, go ahead and connect them with Maria and Terrence
Right.
for a second look. I
Yeah.
just had a personal experience where I had a
Yeah.
client who had a pre-approval for an
Hmm.
FHA. And I said,
Hmm.
well, I think you need to talk with Maria and
Yeah.
Terrence about this. And it turns out it was a better rate, a better program,
Right.
and they're going to be able to go conventional on it, which they're
Yeah.
so excited about.
Yeah.
So please give Maria and Terrence a
Mhm.
second look. They understand this market, they
Yes.
understand the products out there.
Hmm.
That's why we have great partners like Maria and
Yeah.
Terrence.
Thank
So
you.
I think this was a great How's the
Mhm.
Market, and I'm going to encourage anybody who's watching to let us know if you want us to talk about your market in our next series, which will be in January. I can't believe
Yeah. I
2026.
know it's wild. Yes.
All
Yes.
right. Well, we're going to go back to the second Tuesday of the month, I
Mhm.
think, or no, it was the first Tuesday of the month. First Tuesday of the month at
Mhm.
2 o'clock. We're going to try to stick to that schedule and
Mhm.
just keep your requests coming in.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much.
Maria.
Thank you.
Happy
Okay.
holidays. We'll see you soon.
Happy holidays. Great. Okay.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.